I heard the sound before I saw the disaster, the snap-snap of hedge clippers clear as day, followed by someone humming, "We are the champions," like she'd just taken gold in the Olympics of minding other people's business. I dropped my coffee and tore around the side of my house, pajama pants flapping half awake, ready to deal with whatever raccoon, deer, or coyote had wandered in. But no, it was Karen from the HOA board, perched on a plastic stool, yoga leggings on, looking like she'd been waiting all week for this moment. She was hacking a perfect square hole right through my 7-foot privacy hedge, not a care in the world. When I yelled, "What the hell are you doing?" she didn't even flinch, just tossed a handful of trimmings over her shoulder, grinned, and said, "Just making it easier for everyone, sweetheart. You're welcome." Yeah, that happened. And that right there was the moment I realized my life was about to get a whole lot less peaceful and that Karen was about to meet her match. My name's Marcus. I'd moved into this place 3 months earlier, my dream home just on the edge of a so-called managed community where everything looked straight out of a catalog. But according to the property survey, I was blessedly outside the HOA's jurisdiction by a glorious 4 feet. That hedge was my sanctuary, a solid green fortress shielding me from the Stepford Circus next door. I work remote value privacy. More than most folks value a working AC in July, and honestly, that peace and quiet was everything to me. So seeing Karen turn my solitude into a shortcut, that wasn't just a violation, it was a declaration of war. I told her flat out to get off my property. She gave me that look like I was the unreasonable one, and in her best Queen of the Block voice said, "I'm the HOA landscaping coordinator." Like that gave her the right to act like Edward Scissorhands on my land. She insisted it was for community efficiency, something about saving people 45 seconds on their walk to the clubhouse by slicing a new path through my yard. You know what I mean. I pointed out, maybe a bit louder than I meant, that this was not public land. All she said was, "It will save time." That was it. That night, I patched the hedge with fast-growing branches, rigged up a motion sensor camera, and figured, hey, maybe that would be enough. Spoiler, it wasn't. 2:47 in the morning, the camera tripped. The next day, I watched the footage and nearly spit out my cereal. There's Karen in a bathrobe and slippers dragging a ladder over, clipping away my repairs like she's prepping for a topiary competition. She even posed for the camera mouth, "Nice try." That's when I called the cops. The officer was polite, but all I got was a shrug unless she chainsawed a tree. This was just suburban mischief. So apparently cutting a man-sized hole in someone's hedge is fine as long as you do it with style. Next, Karen started wandering through my yard in broad daylight with a measuring wheel and clipboard. When I asked what in the world she was doing, she claimed she had verbal permission from the HOA president to make my property a shortcut. I asked for that in writing. She told me to mind my tone and stormed off, muttering about how new neighbors never understand the vision. Yeah, okay. I emailed the HOA attached video photos legal code about trespassing. What I got back was a one-line email. "We're reviewing the situation with legal counsel. Translation, do nothing, and hope I go away." That weekend I got serious. I planted a new hedge, reinforced the hole with wood panels, put up a big "Do Not Enter" sign, and double-checked with a city zoning officer. My land was confirmed totally blissfully outside the HOA's reach. I felt good. And then, like clockwork, I got a letter. The HOA was notifying me that my visual obstruction was a violation. The kicker. The attached photos were taken from my own yard. Karen had trespassed again just to try and build a case. I called their bluff, sent back a copy of my survey with a note. "Any further nonsense, contact my attorney." Next morning, my mailbox got egged. Real subtle, right? Later that night, I heard Karen on her phone in her backyard, clear as day. "If that man doesn't tear down that green monstrosity, I'll do it myself." I made sure my backyard mic picked up every word and sent it to my lawyer buddy, who offered to draft a cease and desist. But I'd had enough of playing defense. Time for offense. I got up early, sipped my coffee, and pictured something better, something stronger than a hedge. Iron. Black, elegant, 10 feet tall. A real fortress gate, something Karen couldn't snip, climb, or complain about. I went down to an ironworks shop and met Lucas, a guy who looked like he could forge a sword. When I told him what I wanted, he just grinned. "You want something Karen-proof?" he asked. "Exactly." I designed a decorative, legal, absolutely imposing wrought iron fence, got city approval, and started the build. The day the steel arrived, you could feel it. This wasn't just home improvement, it was a shift in the balance of power. Karen came out in her pink robe and sunglasses, barking orders at the work crew to stop the construction. They ignored her. She turned on me, screeching about prison bars. I handed her a folder: city permits, design approvals, the works. Unlike your clippers, this is legal. Her face said it all. Her tantrums were officially powerless. The fence went up bar by bar. Neighbors watched from their porches. Some even nodded. One handed me a bottle of wine and whispered, "We've all wanted to do this for years." Karen took photos, yelled at workers, called the HOA president, but none of it mattered. On the third day, I got a bright yellow notice on my door: violation of aesthetic guidelines. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my tools. My property wasn't even under their authority, and I made sure to remind them: circled zoning boundaries, city permits, and the inspector's phone number. That was that. Karen wasn't done, though. One afternoon I heard a crash, then a shriek. I ran outside. Karen was halfway over the half-finished fence, one slipper dangling, trying to prove it was dangerous. She froze, panicked, and her phone fell out of her robe onto my lawn. I called the fire department. The firefighters helped her down, barely hiding their amusement. By the next morning, the whole thing was online. A neighbor caught it all on video. Iron Karen's Great Escape got 20,000 views in a day. Her reputation, already hanging by a thread, was now a meme. Next day, a desperate letter arrived: "Please consider a less aggressive solution." I wrote back, "Community harmony doesn't require me to accept trespassing." Karen called an emergency HOA meeting in her backyard: folding chairs, lemonade, the whole 9 yards. I watched from my window, popcorn in hand. At one point she shouted, "He's building a fortress because he's hiding something illegal." That's when 3 board members got up and left. When the fence was finished, vine lattices, solar lights, self-closing gate, it became a neighborhood landmark. People took photos. One lady asked for the contractor's number. Karen had meant to save herself 45 seconds and instead created a monument to her own pettiness. That's when I noticed something odd: people were still coming through the gate. At first I thought it was just curious neighbors, but then I checked my footage: members of the HOA board, including Karen, slipping through at night with tote bags and yoga mats. Why I switched the lock to a digital keypad changed the code. The next morning, Karen walked up, tried to open it, froze, and started texting furiously. Later I got an email: "Urgent gate access for community continuity." I nearly laughed out loud. Turns out they were sneaking through for Karen's secret yoga and wine classes at the clubhouse, her little side hustle advertised on a private Instagram page, charging neighbors $10 a session. I called a zoning friend, reported it, and 2 days later inspectors shut down the whole thing, fined the HOA, hit Karen with a personal citation. I figured she'd finally back off. Wrong. One night, motion sensor caught Karen tagging my iron fence with fascist in red spray paint. I sent the footage to the cops. She got fined for vandalism, put on the community's internal watch list. And when that didn't work, she started spreading rumors, claimed I was an ex-felon, said I had illegal cameras, floated that I was a government agent. But truth has a way of winning out. My cousin Jonah, a well-known TV judge, came by, snapped a selfie with the fence, and posted, "Respect the iron, respect the boundary." That went viral. Now my fence was local legend. Karen's reign was slipping fast. And then came her last desperate move: an envelope under my door. A fake emergency bylaw about fence height, demanding I tear down my wall in 30 days. It was signed by someone who'd moved away a month ago. I called the city. It was a bluff, meaningless, but I wanted everyone to see just how far she'd go. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up with documentation permits, a notarized letter from the real secretary, and the room turned on Karen in real time. Laughter replaced fear. The president called security to escort her out as she ranted about surveillance posts. She wasn't feared anymore, just pitied. The next day, the acting president came by to apologize. "You didn't just build a fence, Marcus. You built a line none of us realized we needed." Neighbors started dropping by, sharing their own stories of Karen's tyranny, trivial fines, bogus complaints, even someone reported for having a fat cat. With Karen suspended, the HOA transformed: transparency, real improvements, a public garden. Block parties returned. People breathed easy, and someone even joked I should run for president. I declined. Karen was left inside her house, a ghost of her former self. But she still had one last stunt. She faked signatures on a petition to override the fence, even included a dead neighbor's name. I caught her on camera, sent it to the city attorney, and Karen got hit with charges for forgery. The HOA banned her from all events and facilities. Her name became a warning, not a threat. I turned the fence into a victory garden, threw a party fence fest, jazz trio, food truck, neighbors laughing, even a cake shaped like the fence. Across the street, Karen watched from behind her blinds, powerless at last. Soon after, the city pursued charges, and when the story hit local news, it played like a documentary of what not to do as a neighbor. With Karen gone, the neighborhood found peace. Kids played outside, ideas flowed, people cared for each other. My fence became a symbol not of division, but of standing your ground, respecting boundaries, and choosing quiet strength over pettiness. And maybe that's the real win. Not the fines, not the party, not Karen's fall, but the message that private property matters and real community comes from respecting each other, not from tearing holes in someone's peace. What do you think? Was I right to stand my ground? Or did the fence go too far? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear what justice means to you.